Well, hello and welcome back. We're on Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers with our favorite guest, the sexiest sex therapist we know, Lori Shapiro from the Bethesda, Maryland area.
I'm in the district. I work in
DMV,
Maryland and Virginia.
Maryland, Virginia.
As they like to call it, the DMV.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Good to see you.
always our favorite returning guest.
Thank you.
That's our returning champion.
Dear friend of the show.
Thank you.
And our favorite contestant for one of our favorite segments, Boy Brain, Girl Brain, where we like to take the opportunity to talk with women therapists, female identified therapists, we should be PC. And
yes, I am a cisgendered female therapist. Yes.
But you know, we've been talking saying this for years. It's not sexist to point out that there are very clear, obvious differences between boys and girls, and boy brains and girl brains,
Right?
And Y chromosomes and the lack of one. Right? This is not an issue of political correctness. This is our biology.
Right.
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 And we can try to change our nature. For the most part, men do, I think. And I think it could be argued that modern society, I think of Marianne,
Faithful Williamson,
Marianne Brandon from your neck of the woods.
She's from my area.
And her brilliant book on monogamy, the untold story.
And she does a lot of God, I can't think of the word, but the level of psychology she does related to like anthropology. She's an anthropologist.
Cultural anthropology.
Yes. And you know what? When she came and spoke at the Modern Institutes of Sex Therapy, when I was a student, that was profoundly impacting on my practice with people, because she really opened my eyes up to things that I was not entirely familiar with. So
and for me too.
People who do the work that we do, who also study things outside of our general purview, has been fabulous. So if anybody's listening who wants to go sex therapist, Modern Institutes of Sex Therapy is the way to go.
Thank you very much for the plug.
No, it's my pleasure. I am a proud graduate and planning to do my PhD soon with you all and continue from the amazing tutelage of the rock star staff that you have.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's all totally
Thanks.
Totally
no, that means the world to us. Thank you so much. Yeah. And of course, one of our esteemed faculty at the Institutes. And so, yeah, she rocked my world too, because this may be, I have to cop to some sexism, but this, like you, strong, professional, driven, ambitious, independent woman. And to hear a woman like that say, maybe we need some of the more traditional, and maybe in the bedroom, women should let men be more men and women should be a little more demure. It was kind of shocking, right? It's not something.
Absolutely. And I think talking about it's okay as a woman to be both strong, independent, but also be coquettish and playful and fun. Like, you don't have to be a complete feminist or a complete submissive, that there is so much in between. And so if you allow yourself that it's okay to wear high heels and lipstick, but also be an amazing professional, like, why can't I be both? Why can't I use my God-given powers? And I call them God-given, whatever you believe, but God has allowed me to be beautiful and smart and have a nice figure and all those other things. Why can't I let that be part of who I am as a professional and in my personal life? I think that's really important. I think that our society has not allowed us to understand that we can have and can do both. Not one or the other.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about couples, all sex therapists see all the time, couples with mixed libido, mismatched libido, or different desires.
Especially now.
Often.
Which I would say is one of the most difficult things for sex therapists to deal with.
Right.
Navigate, absolutely. And what I continue to find in my practice when I'm working with people, especially doing some of the individual work, really giving people the opportunity to talk to me alone, you know, in that space where there's no filter, like I'm not going to upset my wife, I'm not going to upset my husband, but really talking about what the bottom line is. And more, the more that I hear these people, the more that I talk about them, the more I realize, and I will say this out loud because I'm proud, I'm a 51-year-old woman and I'm the mother of 3 children. And so who I was in my 20s and who I am in my 50s, sexually, spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally, has changed significantly. And what I've come to think about more and more is that if you think about like 150, 200 years ago, you know, the lifespan of people was what, 30, 40 years. So you had this strong biological urge for procreation from about 14 to about 20. You have this deep drive, have a baby, have a baby, have a baby. It happens a little later now, but then women have a baby and their sexual drive shifts from procreation to visceral. So in order for me to feel sexual, and I mean me, the universal me, I need bonding, safety, comfort, the ability to be vulnerable, and the ability to be accepted as who I am, physically, psychologically, and socially. Whereas men, in my opinion, and what I've read and what I understand, they have a much longer ability for procreation. So it could be from 13, 14 to 70 years old, maybe even older. So their drives are still very biological. Of course, there's visceral pieces and visual pieces, but I think what happens is that, and I hear this time and time again, it's not my imagination, this is what men tell me. My wife doesn't want me anymore. She doesn't covet me. She's not sexually attracted to me. She's not, you know, when we're having sex, she's not into it like she used to be. And what I keep coming up against is that it's because it's not him. It's them as a couple. And it's him understanding her biological shift, that she no longer has this 24/7, pardon the expression, female hard-on. Her hard-on now is in her brain. And so if you can massage that, and I'm not saying be disingenuous or pretend, but if you massage the things that are important to her, how she feels about the kids, how she feels about the job, her need for, you know, some affirmations on some level about the job she's doing overall, just like he needs for her, also the non-sexual touch outside the bedroom. So many women I talk to them about, and it's amazing. I have one-on-one sessions with women where there's like no physical contact between husband and wife. And I say to her this, I say, I suspect the reason there's no sexual or physical contact between you and your husband, because every time outside the bedroom, you let him hug you, kiss you, or touch you, you're scared that's a green light for intercourse.
Yeah.
And they're like, yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
So the whole thing is
I've heard
teaching
that
them
1,000 times.
Right, getting back to being physical and touchy-feely without it being a green light to put your penis in me. And explaining to men, I may love you and want you and desire you and want to touch you. Sometimes I do not want a penis in my vagina.
Yeah.
And it's like
Or anywhere else.
instant magic. They're like, what? So she wants me. Right. She wants me, but doesn't always want to. And then when you go through and you discuss with men privately, because their wives sometimes get a little skittish, all the reasons a woman may not want a penis in her vagina that day, I don't know, PMS, yeast infection. Maybe she took a big poo after dinner and hasn't had a chance to clean herself. Maybe she might think she's a little smelly that day. Who knows? Who knows what the psychology is of her for that day, which has nothing to do with him. And men are like, wow, I never thought about that. I never thought that the brakes that she's putting on has nothing to do with me. Right. Because what happens when nobody gives you any information, what do? We create our own narrative.
Absolutely. That's right. We fill in the blanks. You know, it's kind of like that gestalting. You know, in order to make things make sense, we are going to connect the dots in a way that, you know, kind of serves us, even if it doesn't make us feel good. Right? Now, you know, you're
absolutely. I have men and women read. I'm sorry, Larry. I have men and women read the book "Come as You Are Together" all the time, because men and women, they're like. I have women who are like, I've never looked at my own vagina. I'm like, how have you not looked at your own? And I love, my favorite is the women who call it down there. I just lose my mind when they call it down there.
Like it's
so so much of sex therapy is psychoeducational.
Right. Right. Now, do you find that some of those old stereotypes really do hold true? Like, especially in long-term couples, we get in some of those, and even I think sources of resentment, where the women in general, again, we're talking about heterosexual relationships for the most part, where the women kind of really want to feel more special, as opposed to guys that want to feel necessary or needed.
Yes. And I think that happens a lot, because what happens is we stop seducing each other. It's a given. It's 9 o'clock. She wants to go to bed. He wants to watch TV. So nothing happens, And so what I say to them, I'm like, why can't you guys go into the bedroom at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, have an hour alone doing anything? It doesn't even have to be sex. Touching, kissing, hugging, talking, making the other person feel what they need. Because men want to be coveted, women want to be pursued. And it's like, why can't we give that to each other? And I caution people, and I know that gender role stereotypes are not 100% down the road. I see it the other way, where the husband has the lower libido, the wife has lower. I see it on both sides, but it tends to really, and it's so funny, because when I started in this field 30 years ago, did I say 30 years? When I started in this field 30 years ago, being a young person, I was so like gung-ho about not, putting people in boxes, which I don't, but there are things that are super universal. There's some things that are just universal.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think that.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, it's what I'm thinking, because I'm teaching this in one of my other classes right now. It's just funny that it's coming up in this way. This concept of a genetic leash, that even though we do have enough flexibility in that whole epigenetic world that people like talking about now, where we can break out of a lot of those stereotyped dynamics that are a function of genetics, they're a function of biology, they're a function of enculturation for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, that there's still something, there's still
and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, there's still a biological template that, we are, unfortunately, predictable organisms.
Well, I love that yes, I love that science and men are working so hard to find the female horny pill. Like, you can throw pills at me all day long, but if you are not reaching me intellectually, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, I could take pills all day long. It's not going to affect how I feel sexually.
Right.
And I think they should stop wasting time on trying to make women horny through pills and focus on curing coronavirus and cancer. Like, stop doing that.
We talked about this in the early days of flibanserin. That I said you can give a little ecstasy if she's still not going to want to screw him if he's a slob that doesn't care. That,
Exactly.
Well, because I think that here's, again, is a boy brain, girl brain at work. And I think it's the perspective that we're even looking at. I think, what you're describing, to me, the way I hear it, and what a lot of these women are wanting and what women are asking for, it's more about erotic play and dynamic. For guys, it's sexual. So where, why it's important, I think, to sometimes put the brakes on the intercourse. And I used to put couples on an intercourse ban. Even if they came in and say, we haven't had intercourse in the last year. It's like, okay, you know what? For the next couple of weeks, you're not allowed. And it's kind of amazing how many times that alone allows them to bring together.
Yeah.
But I think there's that difference.
Absolutely. Yep.
Which is why so many women that you're describing and that are talking to you in that way are probably, almost fearful of that kind of intimate, erotic play or contact, because the guy takes that right into intercourse or right into something sexual. She may just want something intimate and erotic.
And I work a lot in alternate lifestyles. I do a lot of BDSM and kink. I work with a lot of poly couples. I work with a lot of transgender couples of every constellation you can imagine. And what I would say is that for like vanilla heterosexual cisgendered couples, I absolutely try to incorporate power dynamics and, erotic play and things that are outside their typical purview, because I think that these things are going on anyway. There's all kinds of these power things that are happening outside the bedroom. And I'm like, how do we bring that in the bedroom? If you want her to initiate, like women are like, I feel like I do initiate. And I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, well, I asked if he wants to go have sex. And I'm like, that's not really initiating. I'm like, if you really want to initiate, show up in the bedroom naked. Like, that's a much stronger sign than, hey, you want to go do it because it's my job. You know, you don't have to do all that much. If you show up in the bedroom naked and lay down and kind of splay, they're going to get the full picture that you're interested in having sex with them. Not just because you. And I think the other huge problem in our society, which I know the three of us have discussed on more than one occasion, is the BS about female orgasm. I talk to women all the time about this.
No such thing.
90% of women, right? 90% of women do not have an orgasm through vaginal intercourse. And my generation, we were brought up with, there's two types of orgasm. Right. There's clitoral and there's vaginal. And we all grew up thinking that. And so there's this whole generation of women who are like faking it and performing and thinking they need to be like porn stars, and they're not taking responsibility for their own sexual pleasure and communicating with their partner what I need and what I don't. And so the more that we figure that out and stop acting and start being genuine, like women who are like, oh, my husband or boyfriend didn't come last night, I'm doing something wrong. It's just not. Sometimes women don't come during sex. Sometimes men don't. And let's get out of that. And there's nothing wrong with porn. You can watch porn all day long. I don't care. But let's get out of the porn mentality of being actors and actresses and be real with each other.
Right. But that is one of those. That's one of those sexist things that persists that we have to break down. That men take it as a given that a woman might not orgasm every time, so he doesn't necessarily have to take it personally unless he's going on that script that my worth as a man is based on my ability to get her.
I see men like that all the time. They're like, if she needs her vibrator, there's something wrong with her because all the other girls come, you know, with my penis. And I'm like, well, either you're a really lucky guy that you've met like the 1% of the population, or they're faking.
Yeah.
Let's do the math.
But it is true that for guys, it's 100% of the time or catastrophe. Right? One time a guy doesn't come and it's like, oh my God, what's the matter? You're not attracted to me. It's over. You're thinking of somebody else. So that we need to accept that men don't have to come every time either.
And let's also acknowledge a reality that people don't really talk about is that, especially guys that get older, when we look at guys over the age of 50, you will find that many guys get an erection. They're great in terms of maintaining it throughout their intercourse, but they don't come.
Not every time, absolutely not, nor should they have to. That's like saying if I'm having penetrative sex and I don't orgasm, that I didn't like it.
Exactly.
Right. Well,
like, what's wrong with having penetrative sex and having your erection wax and wane? Maybe you'll have a great erection for 10 or 15 minutes and then it'll go down. I'm like, all right, let's grab a cocktail, let's have a snack, let's take a nap. We can do it again later. Like, why does everything always have to be so goal oriented? And that's the mentality we have to get out of, is the goal. The goal is not orgasm and ejaculation. The goal is pleasure. I mean, I'm certainly not eating food to the point where I'm throwing up. I'm eating food to feel pleasure and how it sits in my palate and how it makes me feel and the socialization and the enjoyment. So we need to continue to help people to understand it's not about the goal, it's about the process.
Right. You know what I love to ask guys? And it's always a back tightening question. So what do you get off on when you're watching porn? And they stumble and like they're not sure what they're supposed to say. And so I pull it out a little bit, pull it out of them. That sounded weird.
Yeah.
Pull it out.
Isn't it the pleasure of whether it's real or acted, the pleasure you're seeing these people that send you over the edge? If you would get out of your head long enough to notice your partner's pleasure, you'd get off on that just the same.
Exactly, 100%. And I spend so much time with people talking about that and how do we add play into sex? Like sex should have laughter, it should have fun, like it should have
jobs in there.
It doesn't have to be
jobs. It's not work.
It doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be so serious. Like whatever happened to laughing? I mean, just the word, and I hesitate to use this word because I'm sure my mother will watch this, but like the word queef.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Women if that happens, women are like suicidal from that.
No,
But like,
mortifying.
why can't you laugh over that? You got a ceiling
Right.
fan,
It's a
a
funny
ceiling
noise.
fan over your bed, lots of air going on.
Exactly. If a guy farts in bed, he's gonna do a Dutch oven or something like that.
Yeah, I'm totally against the Dutch oven. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm right there with
Not
you.
sexy.
But again,
No,
that
but-
kind of play, that having fun,
Right.
that's why I
Right.
think, so much of what we do, because, and a lot of, our field is just as guilty, in talking about intercourse and orgasm as the main events, and talking about what people should be working up to. So, we've been switching gears for the last couple of years, but you're right. Laughter is so important, as long as it's not, accompanied by pointing and, covering your mouth. To make it fun. And that's why this non-demand pleasure, having people spend time specifically and intentionally not having intercourse, specifically and intentionally not orgasming, just focusing on the pleasure and the play.
You know what? I found the biggest thing during Corona that I've been having people do, and it sounds very like Psych 101 kind of crap. I tell people, with their children, without their children, twice a day minimum, find your partner and have a long, uncomfortable hug. And when I say the long, uncomfortable hug, I mean it's the one where you don't have the butt out and you're like pat. I mean the one you're like heart to heart, you're hugging like you mean it. After a few seconds, you're like, should I let go? This is starting to feel weird. I'm like, hold on for another 3 seconds. And really do that. Do it together, do it with your kids, do it as a group, do it as a family. Go into the long, uncomfortable hug, because that's intimate. That's where intimacy is. I mean, intimacy is not anything before that. Because I think when I think about some of the hottest sex I ever had, it was completely clothed and rubbing all over each other and making out and doing the yes, no kind of crap. Like, the intercourse was so much further down that line, and we forget that all that other stuff is so good. All that stuff is so good.
Beautiful. So, in a nutshell, what's wrong with men and how do we fix them?
Get out of your head. Stop thinking it's you. Stop thinking she doesn't want you. She doesn't covet you. She doesn't love you. She doesn't want to have sex with you. And instead, remind her why she does. That you're her partner and her friend, and you think she's beautiful and sexy. Grab her butt in the kitchen, brush the hair out of her face when all chicks, this is like every chick in the 80s movie. Every 80s movie is like,
That's
you know what I mean? Push the hair out of her face. Tell her dinner was delicious. Remind her she's valuable. The more she feels like you care about her, the more sexually attracted she is to you, unless you're a smelly slob, of course. But, if you're a good, decent guy and you remind her that you love her, she will be more into it. Don't remind her what she's doing wrong. Remind her what she's doing right. Allow her to be physically close to you outside the bedroom, because then when you're in the bedroom, she'll want to be physically close to you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, cheers, my lady.
Yes, indeed.
We'll have to wrap.
Thank you. I love talking to you guys.
Always a pleasure to have you on.
Yes, truly.
And we'll do it again very soon.
Well, I love talking to you guys. I love sharing, with everyone and patients and clients and anyone, because, it's been a difficult time for everyone. And this is the time to really pull together.
Absolutely.
We've been talking with one of our favorite people, the brilliant Lori Shapiro, sex therapist extraordinaire in the Bethesda, Maryland area, DC, Virginia, Maryland. We'll see you soon, love.
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much. Be well.